If you're not sleeping well and you're not managing your stress response and your emotional reactivity, which we all have, which is all in our head, all of that is going to be for nothing. The first priority is sleep, stress, strength, resilience, immune system, and that's ashwagandha and shatavari.
Yeah.
So I can talk to somebody, I can be like, I see all these things are going on with you and you need this and you need that. And okay, but you're not sleeping. You're waking up at night. You're totally stressed. You're overwhelmed. You can't prioritize. We got to nip that in the bud. They can't even make a smoothie. They can't remember what supplement to take. People can't even remember how to take their pharmaceutical medication. I don't know. No wonder there's hundreds of thousands of deaths in this country every year from pharmaceutical medication. People can't remember how to take it. So how are they going to remember how to take a supplement? You got to interfere with that stress.
This is StRest. I'm Kerstin Lindquist, health coach, author, and Emmy award-winning TV host. I've committed to helping people reduce stress through impressive health science, attainable mindset change, and biblical truth. Let's have a real conversation with zero judgment and endless solutions that you can use. You aren't alone. You can do this. Let me help you reduce stress and make room for rest.
Hi, welcome into the podcast. We have a great episode for you. This episode is all about regenerative organic. I know, first of all, you probably just kind of tuned out as soon as I said that. And here's the reason why this is important. It's because people always say, why can't I just get what I need from my soil? Why can't I just eat really good food and then I don't have to have any supplements? And the reason why, spoiler alert, is because our soil doesn't have the nutrients in it like it used to, except for a certain kind, and that's regenerative organic. So that's kind of the overarching theme of this podcast, but there's so much more. We're going to be talking to Lynn Vitale. She's a holistic health educator, a practitioner, and a thought leader in Ayurveda, nutrition, and integrative wellness. She has decades of experience helping people achieve balance through all of those things: how you eat, how you sleep, how you move, and relationships and spirituality. She happens to be the national educator for Elevate Organic, which is a line of products that I love because it's all regenerative organic and certified in things like your ashwagandha and your shatavari, your protein, and so much more. And she really does teach us why it's difficult to get all of the nutrients we need from our food today due to soil depletion. We have a great conversation, and we're going to school you on which foods to eat, which ones not to eat, what supplements you need, and how you can feel better in perimenopause, menopause, and beyond, all from the trees and the plants and the soil.
We'll be right back. Don't go away. It's just getting good.
You know that moment in January when you want to start feeling like a fresh start version of yourself, but your energy, your hormones, and your stress levels are still stuck in December? I want you to try starting your mornings with Elevate Organic's protein powders. They're not your typical protein because they're boosted with regenerative, organic, certified fermented KSM 66 ashwagandha for stress and focus, and organic SRI 81 shatavari for balanced energy and hormone support. It's basically like a little daily reset in a scoop, and it tastes so good. They're made with clean ingredients and developed by the same experts behind some of the most trusted wellness brands. They do whey and plant-based, and as a health coach, I consistently recommend that you use both kinds and you go back and forth to be able to get to those huge protein goals. The best part is they taste fantastic. I personally like to mix mine with a little ice water and frozen banana. Yum, yum, yum. You can find Elevate Organic at Sprouts nationwide and other independent retailers. Or, here's the best part, elevateorganic.com and use promo code Kerstin20 to save 20% off at checkout. That's Kerstin20, Kerstin 20 at elevateorganic.com. Because feeling like yourself again shouldn't be a resolution, it should just be the norm. Well, welcome in from Montana. I love it there. How is it right now?
It's mild for the season. I've flown out and I see snow on either side, east and west and south. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed we'll be okay. But, I'm on 25 acres. I'm trying regenerative methods. And so I'm a little worried about the snowpack and the water come summer.
Have you always been there, or is a part of what you do, what brought you there?
Ooh, okay. I grew up in Colorado in a really small town,
Mhm.
but really only had horses because my grandfather had some horses when he retired. So I was lucky kid. Lots of freedom, lots of sagebrush, lots of mountains, lots of
Wow.
sky. But then my life brought me all over. And before coming to Montana, I was in Brooklyn, New York.
Very different.
And I mean, it wasn't just one morning, but I mean, we were paying attention to the news and it was in 2020 and it was March and we were like, we're leaving today. And I had my father here in Montana, my mom in Colorado, and we just started driving west. It takes 36 hours to get here. And in that time, we decided Montana, mostly because I saw cows with grass up to here the summer before. So I was like, I know there's lots of food in Montana. And wound up falling in love and starting a life here and have 25 acres. And because I'm a nutritionist who talks about ancestral eating wherever you are in the world and about the soil and the soil microbiome and our microbiome, what's awesome is I get to walk the talk now.
Yeah.
And I get to really be like, regenerative farming is hard, guys. Like it's every day something new. You got to be observant. It's not a method.
Wow. I fell in love with Montana this past year. Had never been there before. Always went. I was like, why would I go north for vacation? I'll always go to a beach. We'll always go south. And I spoke there at a conference and I was like, oh, this is why you go there. It is otherworldly.
Yeah. Yeah. It hits you with the possibility. It has possibility.
That's so true. It's so true. Big, huge, overarching question. Why can't we get the nutrients that we need from what we eat? People say all the time, I don't want to take supplements. I'll just eat the right foods. And you and I know, being in this industry, you just can't, for the most part, get the nutrients you need from food that is grown in the US.
Yeah. Or, yeah, I mean, anywhere except maybe like a
Where,
small
yeah,
village in a place where they've been using sustainable methods and putting everything back in the soil. So that's just
exactly.
it. We've got decades since the agricultural or green revolution when nitrogen went from bombs to fertilizer. And all of a sudden, all of our agriculture just went gangbusters and we could grow stuff like crazy, but it sucked all the water. It sucked all the trace minerals out of the soil and probably had a few amazing years. I don't know. I wasn't there. And now we're looking at depletion because you cut the corn, you take it off. You cut the wheat, you take it off. You cut the cotton, you take it off. That organic matter never goes back in the soil. So that's one problem, in a world with no landfills, in a world with no dump trucks, in a world with no combines, that would all stay on the ground. It would keep it covered. The microbiome would decay and we'd be feeding a microbiome. So number one, the soil's not covered. The nutrients don't go back in. We go to the bathroom in a septic system or a municipal system. It doesn't go back in the land. Sorry. That's like a fact. Every other animal, it goes back in the land, right?
Should we all be on set on like composting toilets?
No, I don't want anyone on a composting toilet on my property when they're taking medications,
That's true.
like hormones, antibiotics, people dumping paint, like we're not ready. We're not ready for that. That's like a whole intense closed loop system. But animals do, right? They eat the grass, they drop the biology, as Brian loves to say. That means they poop and pee. And it all kind of stays there. And you're reinforcing microorganisms. Microorganisms make nutrients available to plants and to us and animals. So whether it's your gut microbiome or the soil microbiome, that's one of the problems. We're all messed up. Our livestock is messed up. We're messed up. So we can't even take the food we're eating and properly make it bioavailable to our bloodstream, to our cells, right? To our mitochondria. That's not happening. But I do want to say, everybody talks about magnesium deficiency. If it's green, it has magnesium. I really want people to understand this. Magnesium is the center of the chlorophyll molecule. The chlorophyll molecule looks just like heme in our hemoglobin and our red blood cells, only it has magnesium in the center instead of iron. So if the corn is green, if the soy is green, If the alfalfa is green, if the wheat is green, if your garden is green, there's magnesium. The question is there sufficient magnesium to spill over kind of into the hair, skin, and nails, right, of the plant? Like if we talk about the analogy between us and the plant, the fruit of the plant, the part we're going to eat, the black bean, the avocado, the fig, the corn kernel, the nut, right? Is there enough to spill over into that? In us, the same problem is, do we have enough? Have we absorbed, assimilated enough so that our hair is healthy, our skin is healthy, our teeth are healthy, our bones are healthy, our eyes are bright? So we got to make this analogy between agriculture and us, the soil microbiome and our microbiome. So it's that we've used up the land, we haven't put back, it's been washed off, it's been denuded, the soil is just dead in many agricultural areas, and they just put synthetic fertilizers and pesticides on it. And then our microbiomes, soil and ours. I can put minerals all day long on my pasture. Rock, shell, bone minerals, the same cheap ones that people buy in the store. Put them on my pasture. They're still sitting there in the areas where the microbiome has not come up and become active and broken them down and brought them into the plant roots. Same with us, only we wash them out.
A couple of follow-up questions. If it's green, it has magnesium, but that doesn't mean it's enough magnesium, correct? Is that
Not
what you're saying?
necessarily in the part we're eating. It's in the leaf because that's important, right? The plant wants to grow, wants to drop a seed. That's its directive. So let's take a non-genetically modified plant. Let's say we're growing some beautiful sunshine squash, right? Well, it's hybridized, but anyway, growing some beautiful squash, and the leaves are big and dark, rich green, and it's catching all that sun, and it's making its carbon-based structure out of that. But is it putting all that magnesium into the fruit, the squash, the seeds of the squash, the parts we're going to eat? That's the question. If there's not enough, no. Its first priority is big leaves and seeds to grow again next year when maybe there's more.
So we should be eating the leaves. This is why we say green leafy vegetables, correct?
Well, green leafy vegetables, we get much more magnesium from them for that reason. Exactly. That's a very good point. So if you're doing, your kale, you're doing your spinach, you're doing your chard, you're doing wonderful heirloom lettuces and these kinds of things, and they're green and rich, or even they've got some reds and purples. Yes, those are going to have direct magnesium because you're eating that chlorophyll. You're not eating a red fruit. You're not eating a pink fruit, an orange fruit. You're eating that green, and it will absolutely have magnesium in it. So that is a great point. And the great thing about minerals is that they're kind of neither created nor destroyed. In other words, you can cook the heck out of food and the minerals will still be there as long as you didn't steam it into water that you threw away.
But I still feel like, because I'm a vegetable lover, and green
Yeah.
leafies all the time, but I still supplement with magnesium. I don't always feel like I'm getting enough. So what's the disconnect? If I'm having all these vegetables, why am I not getting enough magnesium?
Oh, well, again, the microbiome. And we're all working on our gut because even this is like, you can have a perfect diet for you. You've maybe figured out, exactly what your ratio, what types of proteins work for you, what types of carbohydrates, what vegetables. You're not bloated. You feel good. You have pretty good energy. But we get in a car and we drive 75 miles an hour past another car driving 75 miles an hour. We're go, go, go. We're distracted. We're multitasking. That affects this. This affects this, the gut. The gut gets a little agitated, stressed, and inflamed. Then it sends messages along a super highway back to the brain, and this thing goes on all the time.
And
So
what Amber's doing is pointing to her head.
Sorry, yes.
What happens in your brain and your head, that stress that we talk about all the time, is impacting your gut, and it's depleting you of the nutrients that you need, right?
Stress uses up vitamins, minerals, antioxidants like crazy. Stress is an oxidative process. And no couch potatoes. Okay. We need a little stress. We need a little friction.
Resilience.
If you're going to lift weights, you got to have some calluses here. It's going to hurt all the time, right? So you got to have that friction in your life to make you stronger, make you more capable, make you more resilient. But constant, unending stress. Look at the animal world. I don't know. Most people have deer where they live. Like if the deer are stressed, if they're always on the move, if they never have they're not going to breed. They're not going to have healthy babies, or they're not going to have babies at all. Like the stress just makes everything sort of come to a halt. So that gut brain axis, that highway between the gut and the brain, and it's a bigger highway from the gut back to the brain. So the brain gets stressed, the gut gets a little inflamed. Then that inflammation in the gut is now it's got like a river going back to the brain, and it starts this cycle. And it's a very difficult cycle to break. That's why a lot of probiotics are focused on addressing that gut brain axis. When you help the gut, you help the brain. It's not a surprise. There are herbs that relax your stress, and then they help IBS, for example. If we come in with herbs that truly help support the adrenal glands to do what they do in a balanced manner, which means have some stress, get it done, get over it, relax. That would be the natural way. Then that will affect all of your inflammatory markers positively, your thyroid markers positively, your lipid profile positively, your reproductive hormones positively, and your immune system positively. If we can manage stress, and if we manage stress, we manage sugar cravings. So then we're managing sugar. Those are the two killers, really,
Yeah.
sugar and stress. They sap all your energy. So we need supplements because we're just not there yet. I kind of joke. I'm like, I too could be like just eating what the earth gives me if I were and I don't want to say that people who live in a monastery or an ashram or any kind of a place like this don't work. They do. But if you are living a life where your goal is peace of mind, your body doesn't need nearly as much because you can recycle so much.
I want you to hear that because that's it sounds simple, but it's a huge concept that people just can't connect. That you can eat all the right things, you can take all the right supplements, but if your stress, and I would even let's walk down the path, your trauma, your unresolved trauma, the things that you went through in your past haven't been dealt with, you're stuffing it all down. If that is not dealt with in your body, those nutrients are going to be depleted and you're not going to be feeding yourself and getting what you need, and you still won't be healthy. There is a direct connection between your nutrition and your stress levels. And people really, they see them as two different things. I'm super healthy. And I think that's why we also hear things like, yeah, this person who ate all the right things and exercised all the right
They got
things all the
cancer
right time. And then they got cancer. So you see, it doesn't work. Eating
in the
and,
mind.
and working out doesn't work. And I was like, no, what was their stress level like?
Yeah. Yeah.
What was
And
their
where did it go?
trauma
Where did
like?
they put it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
No,
have
there
to
is
be where
no,
the
we're
gut
all
is.
different and we all have genetic little programming that we can't really know. We're still, even though there's all these genetic tests and so on, we're still kind of trying to fill that database to be able to
Yeah.
say without beyond a shadow of a doubt, like this gene leads to this gene. Some of them we feel like we know. I'm not going to say that there's not a lot of science, but you've got to have like millions of people in that database to really nail it down. So there's genetics, there's what turns those on, and that is your food, that is your
Yes.
stress, that's your environment. There are people, and we all want to be like, that guy, he drank a fifth of whiskey every day and smoked and ate pie for breakfast and bacon, and he lived to 95. So why do I have to be careful? Because we don't, totally different environment, totally different mindset. We don't know what informed his whole brain and the way his resilience. I love that word, resilience, because it's physical and it's mental. The food was different. My grandparents always said, I don't know why my son and my daughter, my father and my aunt have so many health problems. We didn't deal with that stuff. Yeah, they hunted and had a garden like all their life, or had milk from a cow on a farm, or animals that they butchered, always a garden. There was like a statistic, it was like 40% of Americans. No. It was more like 70% of Americans in 1940 had a garden. And now it's less than 1%.
Wow. Less than 1%.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
sad. That's
Yeah.
really sad.
Yeah. And I know I'm going to send people for like a land grab by saying this, but I was living in Brooklyn, New York, and I was getting all my produce from the Park Slope Food Co-op, biggest one in the country. You got to work there to shop there. It was all upstate organic produce, all farm raised animals. I'm buying the good stuff. But my environment, the pollution, the noise, the constant, whatever, and the fact that the food was shipped from somewhere. I came to Montana. I started my own garden. I'm on this was summer 5 of regenerating the soil in the garden area, raising my own animals. The animals are fat this year. You can see everybody benefiting from the soil management, and my health changed dramatically to be able to open my freezers and be like, I put that there.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that changes how we interact with our food. And then water. Water is so important. And you and I even taught everyone to drink empty water because we told them to buy bottled water, filter their water. We used to drink surface water. All creatures, great and small, drank surface water. Surface water has decomposition of every single leaf and stem and root and everything. All of that mineral base of every living thing falls into the water and becomes ionic. And every time you drink it, it comes into you. Don't go drinking out of your ditch. I have no parasites. We don't want parasites. I'm not going to go drink out of my irrigation ditch right now. But if I have to and I boil that water and strain it, I'm going to get way more nutrition than I'm going to get from reverse osmosis filtered water.
So does that mean when we're at the store looking at all the water that we can buy these days, which the plastic bottles make me crazy, but let's say you have to, am I buying the water that says trace minerals in it, or what am I buying?
That is a tough one. When you eat whole foods, of course, you get more trace minerals, but it's very dependent upon your digestion. If the trace minerals have been added, they were rock, they were shell, they were bone, and they are added. So it's better probably to have some trace ionic minerals in a water. When I was buying water, I mean, I had a filter, gravity fed filter, and then I bought boxes Italian water. It's like, it just sounds so entitled. And to buy San Pellegrino
Boxed
in a
Italian water.
case but Europeans know, like you've always got to have some water from a source. Like they have that kind of idea. You got to have it from a spring because you got to have that in your life. You may not be able to access it all the time, but that is so entitled. There are great fulvic and humic mineral complexes out there that come from decomposed soil layers. Are great spring waters, well waters that are better, but at the very least, yeah, some trace mineral drops. I don't mind the idea of a pinch of really good salt, a pinch. We don't want that water to taste salty. You're not a seal. You live in a freshwater ecosystem, right? But I think it does help. And you know what it helps with? Pinch of salt, little squeeze of lemon or lime helps the electricity of your body. Minerals are that electricity of your body. And then, all the leafy greens. This is why there's those old books that talk about pH, and I can't really, it's a whole different concept. We're electrical. And pH is really a measure of electricity. And if your cell is the clock is wound over to a positive charge, that's not positive for your health. The cell isn't functioning optimally. When you take a green powder, when you blend up some greens, when you juice some greens, when you do a squeeze of lemon, when you do a pinch of sea salt, you're bringing that charge back around to negative, and now the cell membrane can function and bring nutrients in and waste out. So if you're not eating those leafy greens like you are, we want to do a greens powder type thing. If you're not getting a lot of whole foods, we're hacking our way in with, and I like this modern term hacking or biohacking, because a lot of us are just trying to kind of do the best we can. And so
Yeah.
when we use herbs, when we use roots, root, stem, leaf, flower, and fruit have different characteristics and different benefits. Roots are really grounding in Ayurvedic medicine, which is kind of part of what I do as a holistic nutritionist. Roots are very grounding, and that's something we need. They have all these earth minerals in them in teeny tiny trace amounts. That's not even a part of the actives that are considered for a root, but you eat those, you supplement those, and they're just, your microbiome is like, ooh, look, some manganese. Wow, I haven't seen that in a while, Ooh, look, some molybdenum. Ooh, some cobalt. And your mitochondria are like, yes, we can do the job that we're supposed to do. So get some whole food and supplement form into you. That the great thing about supplements is we can access things from places that we might not be able to get our food from. And we just don't know.
Yeah.
People talk about heavy metals in supplements, and I'm like, honey, like if you had a little tester and you could test everything you buy at the store, we're facing metals all the time. But if your mineral status is good, those heavy metals aren't going to stick.
Yeah, I say the same thing because every once in a while that'll pop back up in the news. Oh, the metals in this or that. And I was like, yes, but our bodies, when in balance, are created to filter through a certain amount of just about anything. But the problem is our bodies are so out of balance from feeding a standard American diet and being sedentary and being so full of stress that it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
You are the national educator for Elevate Organic. This is a brand that I fell in love with in early 2025. I was introduced, and mainly because the focus was science and soil. So wonderful supplements as well as protein, which I've fallen in love with because it tastes so great. But it goes back to the soil. So it's organic and regenerative organic farming practices, which create the supplements. What is regenerative organic and why do we want that?
I know it's such a buzzword, and I forget that a lot of people maybe hear it and are kind of like, yeah, I kind of know what that is. But what is that? So, regenerative methods are used worldwide to farm places where people are not going to get up and move when the soil doesn't deliver anymore, right? It's ways that traditional people have figured to put back in the soil so that they can keep gaining from that soil year after year. You kind of close the loop on what grows and what goes back into the soil. And so it's all about keeping the soil covered, keeping a living root year round, disturbing the soil as little as possible. So no plowing, very little tilling, just a little raking. And then biodiversity. You're not monocropping, you know. You might have rows, but you're planting in between rows and you've got companion plants and they're helping each other. This plant helps defend from those little aphids, and this plant helps shade the one and defend it from the sun. So there's that biodiversity. That invites a biodiversity of pollinators, a biodiversity of microbiome, of the soil, and then integrating livestock. Like this is where somehow we got away from that. Like you don't have to be a meat eater or a dairy consumer or an egg eater to integrate livestock into your garden or your farm. Livestock brings the rapid composting and the biology, the infusion of new microorganisms that just keeps that cycle going. Having livestock on the land is like you eating fermented food. You're doing this inoculation of living beneficial microorganisms. When you put the organic with that, you're taking the USDA organic seal, which protects us from chemicals that we know and don't know about, you know, and keeps that out of our food supply and keeps it out of the soil and tries to look at biodiversity, composting, water runoff, social programs to like make life better wherever that produce is being grown. That was organic. You take that and you raise it a level and you introduce these regenerative methods, which really it's about building topsoil. And for the most part, the Regenerative Organic Alliance is looking, can we build an inch of topsoil every year? And some areas that's easy, some areas it's not. You have regenerative, organic, certified ranches that are millions of acres. You're not going to build topsoil as quickly, but you're also not going to degrade those ranches. You move animals along in a very natural way. So regenerative literally means regenerate the soil. When you regenerate the soil and you build soil, not dirt, you are by default allowing that plant to take up more nutrients from the soil. And that plant is going to put more of those nutrients into the part of the plant that you eat. Therefore, you're going to be more nourished. There's going to be more actives. Plants make more antioxidants when they're kind of in charge of their own health and they're not being fed fertilizer and they're not being fed protection from the sun and fed protection from insects. When you work on the plant's immune system, it has all of these amazing compounds that are really beneficial for us as well. So regenerative organic is about the soil, the greater environment, the community, the people who live there, whether they eat the food they're farming or not, what is left behind, the future. And it is an effort to create true sustainability. Can we keep getting food from this earth generation after generation? Will this method keep our water clean? Will it keep our air clean? Will all of our family members who work in those fields come home healthy and well nourished and happy, and will they have everything they need? It's the whole picture. It's not just, hey, is this product good for my health? Regenerative takes it to a more global perspective.
Stay with us. There's so much more to come.
I'm super into the research right now when it comes to creatine and collagen. In fact, let's talk creatine for a second. And the one that I trust happens to be Ancient Nutrition. Research shows that women naturally have 70 to 80% lower creatine stores than men, which means we're ideal candidates for it. And collagen we know is important not only as a protein, but it's also great for joint health. And I've been feeling the joints a little bit more. I'm in my 40s. I have that cold shoulder, women's 40 thing that there's a lot of different things we can do, but it's really important to pump up your collagen. So I'm doing the two together, collagen and creatine, and there's actually a new product from Ancient Nutrition that puts the two of those together. Creatine is one of the most clinically studied supplements, and it's a game changer for women's wellness. It supports cognitive health. That's what I love the most about it. Muscle endurance and recovery, and it helps you build long, lean muscles and strength while staying sharp. And then you pair that with clinically studied collagen, which is what we get from all of our Ancient Nutrition products, and that can help you improve your joint comfort, your mobility, and your recovery. I take it right after a workout in the morning, and I still also love multi-collagen proteins and those peptides in my coffee every morning as well. So support your brain and your body and your beauty every single day with Ancient Nutrition so you can look toned, you can feel strong, and you can stay sharp. Here's what you do. You go over to ancientnutrition.com and put in the code StRest20. That's STREST20, StRest20 at checkout, and you'll get 20% off site-wide. Get your collagen, get your creatine, get your Ancient Nutrition. And let me boil this down to, and with complete just like no judgment on anybody listening, you might say, that's great. I don't care. I'm on a budget and I can't afford things. And I totally get that. I think that deep down, we all want to care about the farmers. We all want to care about the animals. We all want to care about the soil. We all want to care about the future. But I know that times can be tough and that whole stress piece. So why this matters to you, though, is because you are getting more nutrients when you are consuming things that are grown in regenerative organic soil. And here's the other big piece. I don't know what the statistic is these days, but if we continue with conventional farming, and I think in your brain you can visualize that, just like mass farming, everything's really whitewashed,
dirt.
depleted,
That's what I think of.
Yeah, exposed dirt, dusty, just it's unhealthy. You think of, the caged chickens, you think of all of those things, right? That's traditional. If we continue that way, even though it might be cheaper for you, isn't there some statistic out there that we're just going to basically run out of nutrients in our soil after a certain amount of years?
Yeah, if we don't put them back, they'll be abandoned. And this is why there's, there are people who are moving toward how much can we grow without soil? So there's that, which I haven't even wrapped my head around that.
That hurts my
And those
heart.
are like all the futuristic, they're doing those experiments on space station. They're doing those experiments in biospheres. They're doing those experiments, how feasible is that? And you think you can't afford good food right now, wait until you're not the one who gets to be in the biosphere. That's going to be a limited population. So knowing how to grow your own food is super important. You can do it in a really small scale. But yes, I feel going to the store, paying that extra price. I've been in the supplement industry for a long time, and I've been a nutritionist. Really in the health food industry since 1996. And I've come around to say, I'd rather you buy a really good quality multivitamin, a really good quality probiotic, a really good quality omega-3 if you need it, a really good quality, whatever herb is going to help you sleep or not stress or whatever your main focus is, even if you don't take it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because the one that isn't organic, that was made with chemicals, you're a part of a greater problem, and you're also gumming up your own engine with whatever your body needs to eliminate. I don't think 1,000 milligrams of straight genetically modified corn produced ascorbic acid is good for immune system. Believe me, I did that. I did that for years. I popped that fizzy stuff in water every time I got on an airplane. Your body has to work to eliminate, first, what it can't take up, and second, any other thing in there that just throws the balance off. So you're actually ultimately depleting yourself. Less is more. Less is more in our bodies.
You mentioned roots and how important those are. And I would say, for purpose of this conversation, and also because we're both big fans and you're connected, as am I, to Elevate Organic, that we say regenerative organic or organic whenever possible, right? But two of the big products that I love, and the reason that I fell in love with this company, is that they have ashwagandha and they have shatavari. Root-based, correct? Both of them, or just
Yes,
one of them? And
both.
also, why?
Yeah,
Why? I know why I love them. Why do we love them for a widespread of, let's just say, women specifically?
right. Yeah. And first, I want to say that as an Ayurvedic practitioner who went through the whole thing of getting all my herbs shipped from India, early on, and then I was like, I don't even know what this plant looks like. I learned to be connected to the herbs in my area and to view them from an Ayurvedic perspective. So I love that. But there are herbs globally that have such special potency that it is beneficial to bring them in. We don't have such things as ashwagandha and shatavari here in North America. We don't really have it in Europe. There are other herbs that are beneficial, but these are very special. I can't say why. I've loved them since like 2000. I have been taking ashwagandha and shatavari in various forms and combinations. They are both roots. We don't use the whole plant in Ayurvedic medicine for either of them. Both of them are adaptogens, so they really do help with stress management. If we manage stress, as I said, we manage cortisol output, we manage sugar cravings, we manage inflammation, we manage our immune system, we manage our reproductive system. Everything falls in line if we can. I always say massage the adrenal glands into realizing you're not being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. It's just taxes, it's just meetings, it's just your
Just an
mind.
email. Yeah.
Right? We just want a little cortisol to get through it and then we calm down. And somehow these roots that are adaptogenic, they help with that management and that normalization. It's normalization, it's not suppression, normalization. So women, I saw this study where they put like they put an app on some men's phone and they took like the average number of times a woman's thought process is disrupted by, oh, I got to go pick up the kids. Oh, I've got to book that appointment. Oh, I've got to do, gotta. And they buzzed the man every single time.
I
And I mean,
love
they
this.
went like they were crying. They were like, this is driving me nuts. Mommy, like they would do things like that, all the stuff that and I'm not saying men aren't stressed. They carry a huge burden, just an inborn burden of supporting and protecting and providing. And some of these are social, some of them are inborn, but we are constantly going in multiple directions. And that is very stressful. And we reach perimenopause and everything starts to fall apart. And it is all stress based, oxidative stress, things you have to detoxify. It's all about that. Your hot flashes are about stored toxins. Your mind just having a meltdown is about stored stress, stored trauma, things you have not relaxed. So these types of herbs, shatavari especially, ashwagandha can come in and lift that shatavari up and really help support it, help us just say, not such a big deal. And then we handle everything better. You know how when you get totally stressed out and then you can't even remember, oh God, what was that lady's name? I was supposed to remember to pick something up at the store. We can't remember. I could get on here and be like, I don't remember the word if I'm super stressed. That's when I'm like, how do you say it in Spanish? It just gives me a minute to you know, makes me look international and gives me a
Yeah,
minute to remember the
exactly. Oh,
word.
I can only remember it in French.
Yeah.
Should we be cycling these? Can we always be on
Great question.
ashwagandha and shatavari?
Great question. In Ayurvedic medicine, now they will say these are foods. Similar, maybe some people know like astragalus, and you would always put some in your soup and cook it in there. It would just be a part of it. Realize that that would be a whole root and it would be a food and they would be cooking with it. And the cooking itself would make the actives available. This in a supplement form is an extract. What's great about that, we always know it's got the same amount of actives with thanolides for ashwagandha, shatavrins for shatavari, and you can have science because you're comparing those same percentages every single time you do the study. It lets you have some science behind that. But it is what we call in Ayurvedic medicine sharper, more directed. It doesn't have as much of the formula that that whole root would have if you pulled it out of the ground, chopped it up, and threw it in a soup. So in Ayurvedic medicine, to say it's a food you never have to, you can take it the rest of your life, is different than to say it's a supplement you can take it the rest of your life. I believe all of us should take a week break from supplements. But that said, I have noticed I will be on a good run with ashwagandha for like months. And then I don't know what happens. I don't know if I get bored or I just feel good or I don't know. And I'll like drop it for a month and then I'll lose hair.
Wow.
And so, like hormone replacement therapy, sometimes when you stop, it's hard to catch up again. Like taking a month off at the gym, it's hard to get going again. So I feel like a few days of a break is okay. But most people, if you really resonate with this herb, and you have to try it to know, and you really got to give it 2 bottles, you got to give it 2 months. Studies say 2 months. Ayurveda says 35 days to really change all the cells in your body down to the reproductive system. And then kind of the immune system is next. And so really 2 bottles, give it a go. If you resonate with it, if you love it, keep it close at hand, you know. But I've known about shatavari and taken it, as I said, since the year 2000, whenever I could get it, but I couldn't always get it. And I didn't always know what the quality was. Could get organic, but I didn't know if it was properly extracted. Didn't know if it was all the same. Some worked really well. Some worked okay. Some I couldn't tell. And that's the problem. If we're going to put our money, if we're going to put our money into organic and we're going to put our money into regenerative organic, I'm going to say why I love this is the science shows that people got the benefits that Ayurveda said they would get. And that's what we want to know. If I'm going to spend this money, is there a pretty good chance that I'm going to fit under that bell curve of people that got a benefit from this herb? People who were having premenstrual symptoms, people who had PCOS, people who wanted lactation support, people who were perimenopausal, people who wanted better bone strength, going through menopause, postmenopause. That's a hard one. A lot of people who are postmenopausal, you get into 60s, 70s, 80s, and I hear women say, what do I need with libido and sexual function? Reproductive system health is your vitality. It's the smile on your face. It's the sparkle in your eye. It's the desire to play with your grandchildren. It's your desire to garden, to read a book. It's your cognitive functioning. It's your zest for life, your desire to still be here on this planet and enjoy this beautiful world that we have. That is the reproductive system. That's vitality in Ayurvedic medicine. And by the way, immune resilience comes last. If I take some shatavari today, it's not until 40 days later, if I've done everything right with my whole system, that becomes a part of my immune resilience. That's why when we look at ashwagandha studies, especially, they've done those 6 months out and more. After 6 months, they start to see all these other markers improve, such as your lipid profile, so your cholesterol, your blood sugar, hemoglobin A1C, insulin, C-reactive protein. All of these improve once you've taken an herb that helps your nervous system and your reproductive system, and you've done it for several months consistently. Like your cells are changing. You're having a whole other conversation. And you're feeding your microbiome. This came from the soil. It's telling your microbiome, hey, let's rearrange things here. Let's have better soil in the gut.
So much to unpack here, like everything. I
Where do we go?
love both ashwagandha and shatavari, and I take both of them, and I have been since I was introduced to Elevate. And Elevate Organic is a sponsor here on StRest, but every sponsor doesn't get to be a sponsor until I fully vet and love the product. And in fact, before we were even doing sponsors on the podcast, I was involved with Elevate Organic because I loved them so much. For me, I went through a really rough time in 2023 and started on ashwagandha, and it made a huge difference. And then I was introduced to Hank and Brian, who work with the brand, and they were creating this new brand with ashwagandha and shatavari and protein and activata. And I was like, ooh, say more. And that's when I fell in love with it. You can, I consider a relatively low price for supplements, because I've been dealing with supplements for many, many years like you have, and they can be extremely expensive. these are relatively affordable for a huge impact, especially if you're a woman in perimenopause, menopause, and beyond. Because as we established at the beginning of this, you can be eating everything right, you can be exercising, but if your stress is off, if you are not managing with the overwhelm, the anxiety, and you don't have that resilience, none of that matters because the nutrients aren't going to get to you. So the supplements that you should be taking the most of probably, or that you should prioritize with your dollars, are the ones that are going to address that stress so that everything else can be better absorbed when you do eat it. And that's what's happening with ashwagandha and shatavari.
Yeah. Yeah. I have kind of a trifecta for health that I to help prioritize after years and years and years of you could have, and people do, a cupboard full of supplements, baskets full of supplements. How do you prioritize your budget? First of all, get good water. Make sure it's purified, clean of medications and all kinds, environmental toxins and stuff. Get some minerals back in your water. So water is foundational. And then we all need something for the microbiome. If you're doing pretty good, maybe you just need to have prebiotic fibers in your diet or in a supplement. Maybe you need a fermented food, or maybe you need a probiotic.
Yes, please.
Something about your microbiome. And then if you eat seed oils, if you eat farmed animals and animal products from animals that are not out to pasture, getting natural grasses and pecking at the ground when it comes to chickens, you'll probably need a good omega-3 supplement. And then the other thing could be digestive enzymes to digest what food you eat better. But with all of that, if you're not sleeping well and you're not managing your stress response and your emotional reactivity, which we all have, which is all in our head, all of that is going to be for nothing.
Yeah.
So the first level, and this is why I love what Hank and Brian brought forward with Elevate Organic, because the first priority is sleep, stress, strength, resilience, immune system, and that's ashwagandha and shatavari.
Yeah.
So I can talk to somebody, I can be like, I see all these things are going on with you and you need this and you need that. And okay, but you're not sleeping. You're waking up at night. You're totally stressed. You're overwhelmed. You can't prioritize. We got to nip that in the bud. I'll be like, here's good water and some ashwagandha and shatavari, come back in 2 months and then we'll deal with the rest of it, because people can't cook well. They can't even make a smoothie. They can't remember what supplement to take. People can't even remember how to take their pharmaceutical medication. I don't know. No wonder there's hundreds of thousands of deaths in this country every year from pharmaceutical medication. People can't remember how to take it. So how are they going to remember how to take a supplement? You got to interfere with that stress. First thing we do. Yeah, they had me at Regenerative Organic. They had me at shatavari. I mean, I've been trying to talk shatavari forever and just couldn't. Its time is now. They're putting Ayurvedic spices and fruits with it that would have been used in Ayurvedic medicine. It's making it scientifically proven to be more effective. They're using the top ashwagandha. It's regeneratively grown and it's in a bio bottle, which doesn't become microplastic, because we're shipping stuff all over I have just guilt around plastic. There is a possible future. The way I say it, Kerstin, if we who can will, it will change it for everyone else.
Yes, I
So
love that.
those of you who can say, I'm not going to buy a $35 concealer to cover up my eye bags. I'm going to buy a $35 ashwagandha to sleep better and have a natural glow. And I'm going to support a bottle that doesn't become microplastics if it winds up in a landfill and I don't get it to recycling center. And I'm going to support a future. Then ultimately one day we'll be going to the store, getting a grocery bag, and it'll be made of bio bottles. And if it blows away in the wind and down the street, it's just going to become soil over here. Like, we're the ones, we who can are the ones who should. It's like, it's the way that society has always been. And we're all going in our own home and forgetting about the rest of the world these days. We need to make choices that are better for the rest of the world. And it does make a difference. There are ways I can show you how you can make a difference just by buying this product and not that product.
Yeah, it's so true. And be the person who says, yes, I'm going to have a little bit of integrity in this space in my life and buy the right products. If you're the person listening, and I know that you are because you're listening, the name of the podcast is StRest.
So we know you're
And many of
stressed.
you who listen or watch many of you work with me or we're in groups together. And I know the person out there who is so underwater with their feelings, their emotions, their health, their chronic conditions that you're right. Like to make a smoothie every day sounds impossible. To cook a good breakfast, to get to bed and sleep without sleeping pills seems impossible. And I know that you have a million things to deal with, but hear what Amber's saying. It's the same thing that I've been saying forever. Where do we start when it comes to your health? If it's how you eat, how you sleep, how you move in relationships and spirituality, you have to do the soul work before the body work. Before I start talking necessarily about how you're going to feed your body and how you're going to hit the gym, I need you sleeping. And I need you taking care of that soul work, which is the overwhelming stress and the trauma that you might have had in your past. And how do you do that other than please be talking to somebody? Please have that relationship with the Lord. Please have that relationship with other people and definitely be in therapy. All of those things are super important. But the way that you can, like people say all the time, I just want to take something and feel better. You can't necessarily just take something to feel better, but the closest you can get to that is starting with the supplements that will address the stress. And that's why I'm always saying, please be taking your ashwagandha and your shatavari, no matter
But I
who
love that
you are,
you're
really.
doing this in combination, because what you're saying, I mean, sometimes people take things and they're actually making them feel better, but we're so programmed to not invite better and good and happy and content and balanced and peaceful into our lives because we're so used to complaining. That is our identity. So you need help. Like you take your ashwagandha and your shatavari. I slept a little better. What I need you to notice is when that guy pulled in front of you in traffic, did you just go? And normally you'd be yelling and screaming. Like, notice those little things. You're like, go ahead. You obviously are having a harder day than me. If you can notice that, you can get there again. And this is where herbs help us. They don't sort of steamroll us. They help us raise our level of consciousness and help us realize, ooh, I could actually have a choice in this moment. A probiotic can help you have a choice in front of a buffet of food. Suddenly you're like, I don't have to have those 3 desserts today. I feel like I could eat that. Like you can have a choice. Herbals like this, I have a choice how I'm going to respond to my child. I have a choice how I'm going to respond to my spouse. I feel today like I have the ability to make that choice. I don't feel overwhelmed by things outside of myself. But it does take a group. It takes support. It takes an idea outside of yourself. So a friend to say, hey, you, I mean, you didn't ever look bad, but you looked a little tired and today you look really vibrant. Really? Huh, maybe that's helping.
And I do feel it's fine tuning. Over the last few days, have been feeling more anxious, more overwhelmed, somebody who's really in tune with their body like I am. We had a death in the family a few weeks ago,
That's right.
which really hit me. And I got through all of it. And I got through the planning the funeral. And I'm like, okay, I'm feeling good. But then the last couple of days I've been feeling horrible. And I was like, is it that? Is it the layover from that? Is it the overwhelm of being a mom of 3? Is it the season of life? Is it hormones? I mean, I'm full steam blown in the middle of perimenopause. Like, is my estrogen doing weird things right now? Okay, yes to all of it, right? All of it is probably happening. So when I open my medicine cabinet, or I open actually, it's not my medicine cabinet, it's above the coffee, because I'll always remember my coffee. So that's where most of my supplements go. And I'll be like, you know what? I'm going to fine tune up the ashwagandha a little bit for a little bit more right now, right? I'm going to make sure that I am not skipping my ashwagandha shatavari mix. Like you, I will cycle in and out of some supplements from time to time. Or here's what I do. I'll go on vacation and I won't take supplements that week. Like, that's kind of like my week to not take supplements, right? But I'm like, no. Right now I need to fine tune up the ashwagandha shatavari. Maybe at a different season in my life, I can fine tune it down. But let me ask you this. Is there for the most part, we should take this much of ashwagandha and shatavari? And is there anybody listening who you shouldn't take ashwagandha or shatavari?
Great. Great questions. Yeah, a lot there to unpack. So to answer that last question first, ashwagandha has been studied in men and women. The good dose of ashwagandha that's super effective and non-toxic over the long term is 600 milligrams a day of a 5% withanolide made by KSM 66. This is like the most studied ashwagandha in the world. And the biggest safety profile and the biggest efficacy. And men and women can take it at that. But in comes shatavari, and the same company is now putting their scientific efforts into shatavari. Where there are over 70 studies and over 50 of them are human on ashwagandha, now there are over 10 studies on this shatavari, this particular extract. 5 of them are published, 5 are ongoing or in peer review. That's still a lot of studies, but they are all on women,
Which is rare, guys. By the way,
Yeah.
almost everything is studied on men and men alone.
And I mean, like, you've got to have, like, the studies are on people with ovaries and uterus, okay, and intact. So if you have had a full hysterectomy, yes, it may act differently on you because that was not the study, okay, and that was not like, you're missing something. You're in a unique situation. We'd have to talk about that. So there was also a study, one, where we looked at the 300 milligrams of shatavari with not 600 ashwagandha, but 250. 131% better than the shatavari alone in the areas of stress management, energy, sleep, muscle building. We see the testosterone go up a little bit, which perimenopausal, that can be good because we're losing it and it's causing us to lose muscle mass and bone density and skin glow and hair and all this stuff. And sexual function, really good together. Okay. So that combination, and I kind of do it like I take a capsule of shatavari to get the 300, and then I'll do one ashwagandha gummy to get like 200 milligrams. But what I view with ashwagandha and women, I shouldn't say donut, but I'm going to say donut. Donut in the middle of the plate, and it's my ashwagandha, right? And some days I'm not stressed at all, and I'm not taking any bites out of that ashwagandha donut. I'm not needing it at all. So if I took my one, 200, 250 milligrams, it's got me through the day. I get to bed, I'm fine. But there are days when you're biting and you're biting and you're biting and you're biting, and that ashwagandha donut is gone. It's not there helping you anymore, and you need more. And this is what you did. You went to your cabinet. You were like, maybe I need more right now. And literally, it's in the day. I'm like, oh my God, I've just been on Zoom meetings all morning. Blah, blah, blah. I've got this feeling in my stomach.
Yeah.
Have a little more. Let it massage the shoulders of your adrenal glands. Let it normalize things. Okay. Who should not? Based on the studies and based on what I know about ashwagandha, if you have a long history of birth control, hormone therapy, if you did all of it, like you did the Depo-Provera, you've done the pills, you've done the pellets, you have what would be called an Ayurvedic medicine hormone toxicity, and you need to detoxify all that for a while. Get your broccoli sprouts, and then you might do well with ashwagandha. If you take it right now, it may amp that up. If you have massive clothing drenching hot flashes, it may amp that up. If you have mild hot flashes, it may help you. So I kind of describe the person who, you get a little stressed and you get flushed in the face and you get sweaty, and then you get overwhelmed, and watch the ashwagandha. Do it in little doses. See how it works for you. In Ayurvedic medicine, I see faces. I see types of people, and I can see that person, and I know who she is, who maybe shouldn't take it. Shatavari is amazing for that. Think cooling, cool-headed, cool the hot flash, cool the inflammation, cool the red skin, cool the rosacea, cool the inflamed reproductive organs. Shatavari is nourishing for mucous membranes, cooling in a normalizing way. It like cradles you and nourishes you. So ashwagandha is a little touch and go with people who are super hot. If you have high liver enzymes, get that cleaned up first.
So what I do here, though, what I want to clear up in case anybody's confused with the ashwagandha, should I not be taking ashwagandha then if I'm on hormone replacement?
No. Some people are on hormone replacement and they're doing fine. It's when you're bouncing all over. You know how like The people who struggle the most with hormone replacement are often the ones who've always been on hormone replacement. They were
Yeah. So
on all
you were
those
on
birth
birth
control. You and
control.
I
Yeah.
are around the same generation, I'm assuming. And there was the shot. There was this just crazy. Our body secretes teeny tiny amounts of hormones. And these things come in with huge amounts, relatively speaking. The microbiome has to process. So if you have gut problems, if you've been on birth control and that kind of thing for a long time, and now you're on hormone replacement, just evaluate your symptoms. The biggest thing, if you're super hot, hot flashing and drenching, and you're perimenopausal, that may not be the best time for the ashwagandha, or you should do smaller amounts and see how you do. Shatavari is great for that. That's when you want the shatavari. Because shatavari has all these bitter compounds.
Yeah.
In the capsule, especially, we've got the whole root, and you're going to have these bitter compounds. People don't know this, but they have little taste buds on all your organs, your liver, your lungs, your intestinal tract, your pancreas, your uterus, your ovaries. Men have them on their testes too. And these receptors receive bitter compounds, and it helps to cleanse out, detoxify, make the pathway run smoothly. Does the American diet have bitter in it? Nobody even drinks their coffee black hardly, right? If you do, that's probably like the one thing that keeps you on track. So we don't love bitter tastes in the United States. So these bitter compounds are very therapeutic. And not only is that an Ayurvedic concept and a Chinese medical concept, it has been proven in science now. It's fascinating. So shatavari comes in with these bitter compounds, and it really helps to normalize all of that reproductive functioning.
I'm going to guess you drink your coffee black.
I get all my fat in my coffee in the morning.
See,
I
that's
jumped
me
on
too,
that
though. Yeah.
train and
Good.
I don't know, it's been maybe 10 years and I've just never went back.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what do you
So
put in
no.
there? Ghee, butter, MCT?
Butter, yeah, I put in that grass-fed butter. I put MCTs.
All
Sometimes
good
I even
stuff.
add some heavy cream on top as if that's not what butter is. But, I like those fats. And I've tried doing that with tea. I've tried green tea. It doesn't work for me.
Me either. I can't. I
It works
really
for some people. It does
want,
not work for me.
I want to love green tea and I just don't. But I love black coffee. I love that bitter. So I do get that in.
And it definitely purges, if it's black coffee, it purges that liver, gets that gallbladder working. If you don't have a gallbladder, it starts to trickle the bile. It moves the intestines. It just wakes everything up. So I am not someone who says coffee is evil. How you get your coffee, where is it coming from? How's it affecting? Total cash crop, total disadvantage crop in the places where coffee is grown. So you got to be choosing a coffee that has a good social, what am I trying to say? It's a mindset for where they're sourcing
You
it.
and I, our next podcast we could go on and on about coffee because now that there's like the mycotoxins in the coffee and all of that, it's just a whole nother path to go down.
It's a whole thing.
It is. This hour went way too fast, Amber. We do have to talk again. Tell people where they can find you.
Find me? Well, they can find me at Elevate Organic. They can find me at Lynn Vitale on Instagram. I try to put out farm photos and things like that. Also on Facebook, and got a lot of writing on my website, www.amberlynnvitale.com. And here, let's do this again. Let's talk about
let's do this.
How we're going to save the world with our choices.
And here's on my vision board, I'm going to come to Montana and we're going to do it live from your location one of these days.
Let's do it. This is how I write off the kitchen, right? We do videos in the kitchen.
Yeah, I'm back in Montana again, that same location, not far from Missoula at the end of the year. So I don't know.
Let's do it.
My brain's moving.
We're going to do it.
Wonderful to have you. And of course, everything will be linked. But thank you so much, Amber, for your time.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
If this has helped you and you want more of it, we built a YouTube channel membership. Members get bonus content, members-only live chats, and posts between episodes. Higher levels unlock things like polls, shout-outs, early access, plus members-only live streams and videos, and more ways to connect with us. If you want in, go to our YouTube channel and hit join and cancel at any time. Okay, so what are your big takeaways? Mine, if it's green, it has magnesium. That's huge. Making sure you're eating more green. Oh, by the way, I had to go throw on, if you're watching on YouTube, I had to go throw on some wool because we're recording this during that time when it is so cold. And even indoors, it's still so cold. So don't mind the little bit of an outfit change. I did have to get a little bit warmer. If it's green, it has magnesium. Regenerative, organic, whenever possible. Ashwagandha and shatavari as a baseline, especially if you're a woman in perimenopause, menopause, and beyond. You will not be able to deal with how you eat, your movement, your relationships, really even your sleep if you're not going after your stress first, which kind of brings us full circle back to why I created this podcast and my mom and her abundance of stress that caused, in the end, so many chronic health conditions. I am going to take this one offline. Well, not even really offline, but behind the wall to the membership group. If you're not a part of the membership, please join now and sign up. I usually do another 10, 15 minutes. Sometimes I have special guests. There's lots of great videos that you never see on any of my other social platforms that you only see if you're part of the YouTube membership. I also do live events there. We do live streams, questions and answers. You get full hour-long workshops that people usually pay for. All of that is part of the membership on YouTube. So I would love for you to join me. And I'm going to be talking a little bit more about ashwagandha, shatavari, birth control, what Leviticus says about regenerative organic farming, and so much more. In the meantime, join the membership, but also grab your Elevate Organic if it works for you and you're at all interested. Use code Kerstin20 at checkout in order to get your ashwagandha and your shatavari today. God bless. Coming up on the next episode of StRest, Susie Larson. Boy, am I excited to welcome her on. Somebody that I have looked up to, a mentor. She has an every single day radio show, podcast. She is an author too many times that I can even count. In fact, in our upcoming conversation, she talks about when she's on the speaker circuit, which is all the time. Again, another reason why I love her. She's got 2 8-foot tables of all of her books. This woman has so many ordained words from the Lord. She just keeps on spilling them out. But what you didn't know about her is that she has endured extreme health issues since a major trauma when she was just 10 years old. We're going to cover all of that and so much more in the next episode of StRest with Susie Larson.
If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your reviews help others find the podcast and join our community. Follow me on social media at Kerstin.Lindquist for daily tips and inspiration. And visit my website at www.kirstendaily.com.